There's a moment in leadership that most people miss, and if you miss it, your team is going to feel it forever. It's that moment when working harder stops working, when fixing every single problem doesn't fix your culture, when being the smartest person in the room actually begins to hold everybody else back. And most of us out there think our teams need more direction, but what our teams really need is just a different version of us. So in this episode, I'm going to show you the exact identity shift that separates managers who stay stuck from you leaders that build teams that are going to grow, that are going to stay, and that are going to perform, even when we aren't in the room. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm your host, John Espinosa. If your goal is to build high-performance teams, I'm going to use my 20 years of leadership experience to share what I have learned. So why does it matter? Most leadership plateaus, they're not skill problems, they're identity problems. Leaders outgrow teams only when they outgrow themselves. So today, we're going to talk about why most leaders unknowingly, we begin to cap our team's growth. And then second, we're going to discuss 3 identity traps that are going to stall performance. And last, I'm going to give you another model. I love these models. The leadership identity shift that's going to unlock trust, ownership, and build retention. So let's get into the first topic for today. We're going to talk about why leadership plateaus are identity plateaus. And most of us out there believe that our challenges around team building are external. I hear things like my team is they're inexperienced. They're 2 to 3 years. I lost a bunch of senior people to retirement and they're inexperienced. Or another reason I hear is, it's the generation. They just don't take ownership of anything anymore. Do these sound familiar to you? This last one I really like because I don't know how many times, I don't even have enough fingers and toes to count the number of times that people tell me, if I don't stay involved, if I don't stay around, things are going to fall through the cracks. Now, be honest, have you said any one of those 3? Because here's the truth bomb. Everyone out there, listen, here's the mic drop, that our teams mirror our identities. So think about it. If we come in, just try this out. In a day that you're high energy, you're ready to go, what does your team do? They probably mimic that energy. Versus if you come in, you got a bad day, maybe something happened on the way to work, you walk in and you just put your head down and you start working. So these are the things that we have to understand. And in order to understand how to change it, I need you to understand first what your current identity is. So I wrote down some things here, and these are identities that I have taken on in the past. And when I notice now, when I'm beginning to exhibit one of these identities, I very quickly tell myself, whoa, John, what are we doing here? Let's pull back. Let's get back into the identity that I want to be mimicked by the team. So identity number 1, the fixer. Has anyone out there played the role of the fixer? I sure have. I used to call myself the fixer. I loved to fix problems. I love to solve problems. The firefighter. Doesn't fighting fires, like metaphoric fires, not real firefighters. Those are the real heroes out there. But when we get in this firefighter mode where we're just fixing things or we love to solve problems, there's an adrenaline rush there. There's a dopamine hit that we get as leaders, as business owners, to where we're out there. It reminds us why we're doing what we're doing almost, but that's a role. The decision maker. If you are the sole decision maker in your organization, we're going to talk about why that's a problem. And then last but not least, the hero. Who doesn't like to be the hero of the story? Who doesn't like to be that person where there's a big problem, there's a big challenge with the organization, and guess what? We solve it. We solve the problem, and everybody claps and everybody cheers, and we become this hero in the organization. So this is our old identity. I want us to think of these things as the past. Because if you're in one of these roles now, I'm going to explain to you that if we stay in the hero role, just the hero role, let's talk about that, our team, they're going to stay dependent on us to solve the problems. Guess what else? That ownership that we talked about earlier, it's going to continue to be low because nobody's going to want to own anything because guess what? The hero owns everything. And in order for us to lead differently, we need to understand the traps that we fall in. And this was the shift that I made. When I began to find myself in one of these roles, I quickly identified the trap that I was in and then how to work myself out of it. So let's talk about those traps. The first one, if I don't do it, it just won't get done. I don't know how many times that this week, I think I've said that to myself. Well, if I don't do this, it's not going to get done. And if people don't step up when we step back, this creates a challenge. And what happens? Micromanagement creeps in. Ooh, that's like a bad word in most organizations. But that's what happens. If you have fallen to the trap of doing everything because you believe that it won't get done if you don't do it, you're a micromanager. I'm sorry. Look yourself in the mirror because that's the hard truth. What else does it create? It's going to create burnout. Not in your team, but in you. You will burn out. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And then the last thing that it creates is disengagement. You will see your team disengage because you're doing everything. They know you'll take care of it. So as you step back, right? They don't step in. They don't lean into the problem, to the challenge, to the work. They mimic you because that trap that you've fallen into is now your new expectation. So that's the first one. Hey everyone, a quick break in the episode today. Are you struggling to find and keep the right employees? You're not alone. High turnover drains time, money, and morale, leaving us frustrated, overwhelmed, and feeling like we have to settle for less. I understand how tough hiring can be because I've lived it. And with over 21 years of building high-performance teams, I know how to turn hiring challenges into lasting employee success. Through my proven lead framework, we're going to analyze your processes, design a personalized strategy, and implement solutions that create confident and long-term results. Don't let turnover hold you back. Choosing this program is that first step towards a thriving workplace. Enroll today at thejohnespinosa.com and build the team you deserve. Imagine a team that works seamlessly together or keep facing the same costly cycle of turnover. The choice is yours. Now back to our episode. What's the second trap? Validation. So this trap goes back to that hero mentality. We want to feel like we're needed. I mean, I don't know anybody out there that's listening to this pod that probably doesn't want to be needed in some way or fashion. It's just the truth. So how can we get out of this trap, or what does this trap look like? A lot of the validation trap, the mentality is it's easier just to solve the problem than it is to develop the person. And from a short-term thinking perspective, you're probably right. I can get it done in 15 minutes because I've handled this problem 15 times versus have somebody come sit with me for a couple hours, teach them how to work through the process, the challenge, and to get the job done. So it's easier to solve problems than to develop. That's a tall tale sign that we have fallen into this validation trap. Short-term praise equals long-term stagnation. So if we're doing everything because it's easier to just do it than to teach somebody else, to develop somebody on our teams, somebody in our organization to do it, it's only going to lead to long-term stagnation, because if you are out, the work is not going to get done. Or worse, it'll get done, but it won't be up to your standards. So that's the validation trap. The third trap that we fall into is this control trap. And we think that control equals leadership. I got to have control of everything, because if I don't have control, then I'm not a leader. I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. This is the trap here is all about, I need to have my arms around everything, or my fingers in all the projects within the organization in order for me to be a good leader. And that's just not the truth, because when we control things, creativity drops. People begin to quit thinking outside the box. They begin to quit bringing you ideas, because they know that you're just going to control it anyways. They're going to bring you something and you're going to twist it into your control, within what happens within your control, because sometimes we can't see far enough to say, that may not be in my control, but I trust you to go get the job done. The other thing, when we control, accountability weakens. And so that whole ownership thing that we talked about earlier, nobody's going to own anything. Nobody's going to be accountable for anything, because we're controlling everything. And then last but not least, it begins to erode trust in the organization. It begins to erode trust that you have maybe built up with your team when you become this control freak. And we don't mean to do it. I find myself getting in this mode when I'm stressed, when there's things that I just need to get done and get off my plate. That's when I notice that I'm in this control trap. So there are going to be triggers with each one of these. If I don't do it, nobody will. That's trap number one. The second trap was the validation trap, and the third trap was the control trap. So if we know what the traps are, how can we build high-performance teams? I'm going to give you the model here. And this is the goal. This is the action. These are the takeaways that are going to prevent you from falling into these traps. And they're going to prevent you, or let me rephrase that. They are going to shift you out of those identities of the fixer, the hero, the firefighter. So this is the goal here. Before we get into that, I want to challenge everybody out there. Right now, we only have 40% of our listeners that are subscribed to this channel. I want to get that number up to 50, at least 50%. So do me a favor, if you're listening right now, find that subscribe button, click on it so we can get up to that number. It would be a big gift to me, and I promise in return I'm going to deliver you valuable content. So let's get into shifting our identity. And this is the practical piece. So we are going to shift. There's 3 shifts we're going to make. The first one is going to be from the problem solver to the capacity builder. Okay? In the shift here, I want you to begin as the problem solver. We ask ourselves, how do I fix it? How do I fix the problem? But when we shift into the capacity builder, now it's that mentality of teach somebody how to fish. So how can we identify somebody or traits in somebody to teach them how to solve that problem? So we go from the single source, right, the fixer, to the teacher, the capacity builder, the coach, the mentor, all of those things. And I think this is, I don't think you're a leader. I'm just going to come out and say it. I do not believe that you are a leader until you can develop others. When we begin to shift our mind around that really single source, the individual contributor to a leader, now we also must shift our mind to capacity builder, to coach, to mentor, to teach people how to fish. Not catch the fish, but teach others how to fish. That's when we change that identity. So that's the first shift we're going to make. The second one here, we're going to shift from a direction giver to a clarity provider. And this one looks from a direction giver. Think about it. What do? We give constant instruction. Somebody comes to us for or with a question and we provide the answer. You've probably done that many times throughout the day. And there are times when we have to fit inside that role. However, what I'm asking is now let's shift to the clarity provider, to where we're identifying or defining outcomes, standards, guardrails. And when we set that up, when we identify those things, when we provide that clarity, now people know where they can work. And when they get outside of those guardrails, that's when they can come to us for an answer. Teams that I lead, the expectation is if there is a challenge, if you are going to bring me a challenge, I also want a recommendation. I want some solutions that you've thought through. And what's the one recommendation? I always say, think about 3 different solutions and bring me one recommendation. Anytime you have a challenge, that's the expectation. So now I've turned from the direction giver, because it's really easy for them to ask me. Now with the expectation that I've set, I've defined the clarity, where we go, mission, vision, where those guardrails are, as long as it's within our values, as long as it doesn't meet certain thresholds, maybe monetarily or, impact other projects, or, external, if it doesn't get too far external from the organization. My expectation is come up with 3 solutions, 1 recommendation, and then let's get to work. So that shift from direction giver to clarity giver, really, really important. And then last but not least, and this is the hardest shift, folks. This is the one that took me the longest. We need to shift from being needed to being replaceable. And this shift has grown teams that I've led. It's increased the capacity. It's allowed us to scale very, very fast. In organizations that I work with that understand and begin to shift from being needed to being replaceable, increased revenue, increased retention, increased identity, the team identity, employee engagement, you name it, things begin to get better. Why? Because now what we're doing is we're basically implementing everything that we've talked about up to this point. We're just leveling up. We're leveling up ourselves first. We're leveling up our teams. And when we do those 2 things, it's only a matter of time before the business levels up, before revenue levels up. I mean, those things, they're byproducts. They are byproducts of having this mentality of being replaceable. We can scale faster. Burnout goes down. And we're building future leaders. When I was thinking about what to name this podcast, Leaders came up because I want to help people get to where they're going, and we do that through building leaders. We do that through being replaceable, because if, we're needed all the time to make decisions, to hire, to team build, to schedule. You can go on and on and on and on about the different things that you think you're needed for. But in the end, if that's the case, when you're not there, work doesn't get done. So shifting to being replaceable has made a huge impact on my businesses, my teams, and the people that I work with. Because when we shift ourselves from being the center to more of a guide, that's when we start to increase capacity. We start to increase capacity in ourselves, and we start to increase capacity in our teams. So as we land this plane for this episode, what changes when identity shifts? Everything that we talked about earlier, ownership begins to increase, trust strengthens, that engagement stabilizes, retention improves, and we build leaders. Leadership multiplies. So when leaders change who they are, teams change how they operate. So ask yourself this: is your leadership helping your team grow or keeping them dependent? Because the version of you that built the team may not be the version of you required to lead it forward. Today we talked about the leadership plateau and how they're really identity plateaus. Those traps, the 3 traps that keep us stuck, and then the identity shifts that are going to unlock growth, they're going to unlock the trust, and they are going to increase our performance. So you don't become a great leader by being needed. Hopefully I've demonstrated that in this pod. You become one by building people who no longer need you. If you're ready to step into the next version of leadership and build that team that performs without constant oversight, join one of our programs today. Go out to thejohnespinosa.com, check them out, schedule an interview, 15-minute strategy call, quick and easy. Let's develop leaders who build leaders. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to everyone on the next episode. Bye-bye.